No, it has a whole checklist. You should be a good speaker.
Okay, I'm going to start the learning sponsors. All right. Year of learning, Martin Lippman and family in memory of his wife, Marka Chana Bat Pinchas, friends of Herb Jeremiah, Tzvi Ben Zev, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lozinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir, Bella and David Adler. In memory of her father, Eliyahu Ben Yosef, a Kohen, those who were inspired by Rebbetzin Emerita, Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Malka Bat Meshulem Yisachar, Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Mushka Shbrunza Bat Yosef Chaim Bechava, Hanan Ben Moshe Eliezer Vechana, Pesha Bat Shmuel Yitzchak Halevi V'Tzipora, Isser Ben Yoel Moshe Cohen Vechana. Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman. Gutabat Mayor, Michael Klein and Friends of Judah Klein.
Thank you.
Marsha Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim. Marsha Brana in memory of her husband, Arav Yerachmiel Ben Shmuel. Friends and family of Arthur Ritholtz. Mordechai Yudel Ben Baruch Leib HaKohen. Friends and family of Siggy Bessler. Shalom Shraga Ben Dov. Friends of Marvin Weinstein. Mordechai Ozer Ben Yisrael Aharon. A month of learning by Haran and Mel Haller. In memory of her mother, Malka Rachel Bat Yehuda Leib. Judith and Michael Peretsky, in memory of her father, Yaakov Yusuf Shvavel. Isaac Adanovic, in memory of his mother, Miriam Gittel Bas Kano Henach Tova and Lee Zimmer, in memory of her mother, Henya Bat Rebero B. Pizer, in memory of her husband, Rav Yisrael Ben Chaim Ben David, Rabbi Avi and Lorraine Glatt, in memory of Pesi Ackerman's brother, Chaim David Ackerman. A week of learning, Lala Bessler, in memory of her father-in-law, Dov Berish Meshulam Shraga Fivish. Oscar Delimol, in memory of his father, Shlomo Ben Yitzchak, and his mother, Rachel Bat Naftali. Marty and Judy Engel, in memory of his mother, at the Sarah Fishel Halevi. Beverly Hersko, in memory of her father, Israel Ben Chaim Tzvi. Judy Iger, in memory of her mother, Bela Bat Ansha Yitzchak. We also have a day of learning on the occasion of the grandson's wedding by Mel Grossman. Okay, today is the 5th of the month. There is no other individual days of learning. Hashem have an aliyah, cranker of fear, velti yeshir shematuya, kol b'nei Israel good gebenshna.
I brought you again the Psukim. It's the same as yesterday. However, I really feel bad. I fell into the Goyish chapter trap yesterday. You know, the chapters that are written in our Tanakh are by the Goyim, they're not by the Jews. So so they're often silly. They're often ridiculous. The chapter, they're silly. They're often silly. Yeah. So yesterday I took chapter 22. Of course, cutting off the opening of the True Torah parsha, which was the end of the last sentence. So I put it in this morning. That's number one. So you have the end of what they call the end of the chapter 21, which is really the beginning of this parsha Pesucha or Stuma. Yes, we always have the parshas. Okay, that's number one. Now, today is a really the Perek Mov was famous for being an intensive drasha. And first of all, if you're ever going to love the Chachamim, this is the place to do it. You understand? You'll see the incredible dedication that they had to every single word and slightest nuance. They were in the diamond mine, mining the diamonds of our Jewish world. Every detail, every bit, they cherished everyone and killed themselves over it. Now, to get the forest and the trees here, because that's the only way to do it. It's so easy to get lost in this Gemara, even though besides the principles, and even if the particular discussion may not be that hard to follow, it's often hard to follow the overall discussion. So let's take a look. Look at the paper that I gave you, just to make it easy. If you look at the beginning of the very good, now the one I gave you, it says Lamed Zayin, the last one. We start out with a theft, okay, and it's talking about what? It's talking about a guy sells or shechts the animal. He has to pay 4 or 5. Then pasuk aleph, but that came right from the next chapter. It'll be like the beginning of the next chapter, which is really just a continuation. So he said, we said, what happens if he sleeps in the middle of the night, et cetera, et cetera. Not our issue at the moment. And then in pasuk Gimel it says, If the Gneva will be found by him, Mishor Chamor Tzechayim, Shor Chamor Tzechayim, Shnaim Sham has to pay too. So now here you have clearly a source for what? For a Ganav paying double, but you notice it's only by what? It's only by living thing. I didn't Ganav pays double for a baseball bat or if anything else. We don't know. Now, when you look into when you can make the continuation and we go to Pasuk Vav and Pasuk Zion, here we had a big machlokis yesterday between two brises. What was that? Okay, it says Ki Tein Isha Re'ehu Kesef or Kalim Nishrav Gunu Beisaish Imi Matzah Ganav Yishalim Shnam. He says he has to pay two. That's Pasuk Vav. But look, continue. Im Lo Matzah Ganav. He's not found out. They'll find the Ganav if he won't find out to be the Ganav. Remember we made all these puns. He found the Ganav or he's found to be the Ganav. Okay, whatever it is. If he's not found, okay, in this pasuk sign, everyone agrees is talking about a shomer, a guardian who claimed that it was stolen. Okay, but he was said to go to the court. I'll call that. And this, remember, we had a whole drasha here to include now by paying two. All everything, inanimate objects, all these things. Here, I'll call them. Repesh, I'll shore, I'll chamar, I'll sell, Salmo, Kalabida, Asher, Yomar, use Adalim Yabo, Edvashneim, Asher Yashinalim, Yishalim, Shnaim Lerehu. So we had a big machloket is Pasuk Vav and Pasuk Zion, both talking about what? About a guy who was a shomer and claim Tainus Ganav, or it's no, it's Pasuk Vav, right? It's Pasuk Vav about a regular old Ganav, and Pasuk Zion is now talking about a shomer who's trying Tainus Ganav. So what's the problem? If I make both pasukim about a person who's toying Tainus Ganav, it's a watchman who claimed that it was stolen, that even though I know already by a regular thief from way back in the beginning, okay, by Pasuk Gimel, I knew already that a regular old thief who just not a watchman pays double, but I only know that he pays double for what? Only for animals. How do I know he pays doubles for inanimate objects, etc.? All that we learned up in the later. If you hold the later section was one part about a thief and one part about a guy who claimed it was a thief, so then you have that. You're right, that I detailed it. But if both of those psukim are about a guy who's a watchman who claimed it was a thief, then even though at the beginning of Pasuk Gimel I have a verse for paying double by a thief, but I have no paying double by a thief for anything except for what? For animals, not for anything else. So how do I know? Okay, that's going to be the beginning of the discussion today. Okay, now how do we find the source that he pays for that the regular old thief pays? According to if you hold both of those later psukim about a watchman, so where's the source for a regular old thief? And we tried at the end of yesterday, I think I read that part. We tried to do it by Kal V'chomer, but we can't because of what? Because the Kal V'chomer is you have a problem of dio. You can't since a watchman is with a vow, you're not going to be able to learn that a regular old guy who doesn't have to have a vow is responsible for the same thing. So we're stuck. We're looking for a source. According to this opinion that both Vav and Zion, etc., all about the watchman, we don't have a source for a regular thief. Okay, that's the opening that's where the curtain opens on today's Gemara. We're going to have a long drasha. We'll solve it. We'll solve it eventually, and then after the second we solve it, what do we do? I say, well, now we understand once we understand what the brisa that learned both about a watchman did. Well, then 1 second, we're gonna have a whole lot of extra phrases and sentences. What are we going to do with the other guy? Then we'll come to that in a minute. That's the grand sweep of today's Gemara. Okay.
Where are you?
Where am I? That's another question. I don't. I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you. Right, 3 lines from the bottom. Exactly. Okay, exactly. My brother and I did educational programs for billions of people for years. Everybody, the army, everybody in the world. One time somebody asked us, they sent us a group of priests from Central Africa. Black African priests, Christian priests from Central Africa. So they only spoke African through a French interpreter. No, okay, we're trying. So every day we would come down the line. They say, and then the French, well, and then the guy would speak to us in Hebrew. So every question and every answer went back from African to French to Hebrew, then Hebrew to French to African back to them. So you realize communication wasn't that great, you know what I'm saying? But we were trying our best, to make a Kiddush Hashem, to speak well for the Jewish people in front of these non-Jewish priests. Yeah. I don't know what they were speaking. Anyway, we're trying our best. It's not bad. We're getting a few things. We have a Jewish people. The Jews have an oral law. Whatever it is, okay, good. Finally, we hear Oh, no. And you can see this like, kind of a debate back and forth. It's confusing between them and the interpreter. When the interpreter says to us, he says, it comes out in Hebrew. He says, they want to know, where are we? My brother, I go, wow, it's such a deep question. That's a deep thing in the Torah. Where are we? Is a very deep question in the Torah. My brother and I get into a huddle to start this. What are we going to answer them? So they realize we might have missed the point. The guy says, no. He just wants to know, what is the name of this building? He says.
Well, that's like when
Yeah.
kid answers,
We come from, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but Gideon came from Philly.
Exactly. Where I come from, exactly. Okay, good. So now, we're 3 lines on the bottom. What do we want to say? We want to say that what? Where are we? 1 second. Nafkale, that's the word, right? Nafkale. Second. I'm on the wrong page. That's what I'm saying. I'm on the wrong blot. That's right. Nafkale. Okay, Nafkale. So where is he going to get it from? Where is he going to know that a regular thief has to pay double when it's not an animal? That I don't have a pasuk for, because you use all the psukim up later for what? For the watchman. So it says Nafkale with the Tana de Bechizkiah. We're going to learn from Tana de Bechizkiah. The Tana de Bechizkiah. Now I'm going to tell you a trick, and stick with this trick, otherwise it's not, you get lost for no reason. The trick is like this. We're right now, first of all, we can't tell, but it's really learning klal, prat, klal. Generalization, particular relation. Yeah, but right now we don't see it, but that's what it's really doing. But how does that usually work? So I abstract the detail, turn it into a principle, and include things that are not exactly like the detail, because I've been a principle. So things that aren't mentioned, but things that aren't mentioned, I can include them. Now, each time, what the drush is going to do is say, listen, I made an abstraction. And then 1 second later, I realized that I don't need the abstraction because the Torah spelled it out. So I have to widen the abstraction. Then I make the abstraction. I realize I don't need the abstraction because whatever I gained from it, the Torah said explicitly. So I'm looking for some place where finally, where the abstraction tells me something. That's going to be the basic one. I make an abstraction. I say it's unnecessary. I widen it out, find it's unnecessary. Widen it out, find it's unnecessary. So I'm finally going to come to a place where what? I'm going to find out that he has to pay double even for everything, even for inanimate objects, even for baseball bats. That's what we're going to do. Let's try it. Okay. Now it doesn't really show me that it's particular general, but we'll know it, but we're cheating, and you'll see why, because by cheating the way we're doing, we allow ourselves to say something that makes no sense. And later, once we uncheat ourselves, we're going to have to make sense of the part that we cheated on in a minute. You'll see in a second. Okay, but let's get there. Yeah, the Tana Bechizkiah learned like this. The Tana Bechizkiah, they said, looking at our pasuk, which pasuk? Pasuk Gimel. Here, they're gonna have to learn it from the pasuk of the Ganem. They can't learn it from later, where we spelled it out yesterday, because we used that up on the Watchman. Pasuk Gimel. He must be mishor, from an ox, ad chamor to donkey, ad seh till a sheep. Chaim, living, Shai pays double. Where'd I get a baseball bat there? I'm going to show you. That's a baseball bat. Let's take a look. Yomar, okay, he says what? Let that pasuk say shor ugeneva about kol bechlal. With the generalization of theft and the particular of ox, I would know everything. What? Even baseball bats. Gemara says what? He said, I would know everything. Gemara says, 1 second. You wouldn't know everything. Ilu kach, had you had just, if you were gonna abstract the ox, Hayisi Omer, I would say, okay, even if I make an abstraction, a paradigm out of the detail, I would say Ma'aprat Meforush, just like the explicit detail of the ox, carved the Gabi Mizbech, or something a lot of sacrifice of Mizbech, I'll call carved Mizbech. Okay, I'll make a principle. A principle is everything that you can put on the altar, you have to pay double for. Now, that's very nice, but the only problem is like this. What are you doing? What would you gain for that? What else goes on the altar? You know? What else goes on the altar? We say sheep, goats and sheep. Yeah, goats and sheep. Goats and sheep for the moment. Okay. So what are you going to be? What are you going to be? What? Oh, what else goes on the altar? Goats and sheep. Goats and sheep. Yeah. So, but then once it says, he says, so you're going to say, I'll include sheep, for example. No, sheeps. That's flocks. It's all the same. I'll include sheep. So 1 second. But look, you use your principle to gain sheep. Okay. But you say now you're going to gain sheep. He says, Omer said, but now the verse said sheep, so you ruined it. The whole point was to gain sheep, and it said sheep. I don't need that. Okay, Harry said Omer, it's already said it. So how am I going to use Geneva, a general principle, to abstract the detail and learn something? The rabbis called over. Wow. So must be coming to say what? Must be coming to say everything. Everything's included. Okay, one second. Yomar Shor Se Ugeneva. He says, okay, so according to that, what knows the extra word sheep? What this man has to remember, I pointed out to you, the extraness doesn't have to per se be connected to the amplification. So therefore, what he says, want you to say ox and sheep and Geneva, now I knew everything. Okay, and so how come you still had to write what? How come we still had to write donkey? Okay, what do you have to write Hamar for? Ilukach, I'll tell you why. Had you just written ox and donkey and Geneva, I would have made the abstraction not wide enough. Why? Since ox, I would say what? Since ox and sheep are both things that what?
Both
That can be bechors. They say af kol davar shekadosh bechor. I make the abstraction. Everything that can be a firstborn. Now Gemara says, 1 second, my yishal but what are you going to gain from that? What are you going to gain? That wasn't there already. Because it's going to be what? Chamor. All you're going to gain is what a donkey. Ironically, a donkey which can't be sacrificed can become sanctified as a firstborn. Not exactly, we don't sacrifice, but it's a firstborn. You redeem it, cut its head off, you got to do something. So what are you going to gain? A donkey? Because you omer chamor, now that the pasuk said chamor, hari chamor omer, so it already said it. So I can't gain from the abstraction of donkey because it said donkey. Okay? So what am I going to gain from the generalization that it wasn't written already? The rabbis called over, it must be everything. But the measures continue. The Brisa continues. It's not good enough. Yomar Shor Chamor Se. So how come I just didn't write ox, donkey, sheep, and Geneva, the generality? But Kol B'Chlal, I got everything. And why did it have to write? He doesn't tell us that. Why did it have to write further? Life, a living thing. A living thing. Now we're cheating, but we're cheating for the moment. A living thing. That's how we're reading it. I'll tell you why. He says, had it just written these things and not written living thing, I'd say, I'd say, you know what the generalization of the detail is? Living things. Also all living things. So what would you include? What? Also other living things, what? That are not a bechor, not a this. Okay, good. He says, when you said the word living at the end, what? Okay, Chaim Omer, you already said it. What did you gain from the generalization? The answer is Hamani Mekayim Geneva. So what am I going to do with the generalization? The Rabbos called over, that comes to include everything, what even inanimate objects, a baseball bat. Home free. It looks like the answer. So according to this Brisa, we can say by the analysis of Pasuk 3, but that's my God, if I can show you that even though it didn't say it, it says even an inanimate object. Amar Mag, which is wait, slow down. You cannot read the Brisa the way you just read it. It's utterly nonsensical. How do you, from a single word of Geneva, one generalization and one detail, how'd you get an abstraction? You know that's not the rule. What's the rule of a generalization followed by a detail? There's nothing in the generalization except for the details. It's the Torah is telling you this is a group of one. How's that for mathematics? It's okay. This is a category of one. Okay, Amar says Yomar Shor Geneva. What do you tell you? You told me in a brisa it should say just the generalization Shor Geneva. Okay, Ksiv, he says Miksiv Shor Geneva. First of all, the pasuk doesn't say Shor and Geneva. It says Geneva. What? Geneva b'Shor. They see. Look at the pasuk. It's Geneva written first and then Shor. What are you talking about? No, it means to say what? Well, let's say theoretically, had it said that way, and it said. Had it said Shor and Geneva, had it said Shor and Geneva, it doesn't reverse. It doesn't make any sense. He says, Ilu Nemar Shor Geneva, had it said first Shor and then Geneva, Mimat is Amras. How are you going to generalize? Ma Prat Mafurash. How could you say what? Just like the explicit detail, the ox, having Shor Prat, okay, and you're going to generalize it. You can't abstract that. Having Shor Prat, it's going to come out that the ox in that order is a detail, Geneva Cloud, and following as a generalization. What's the rule of a detail followed by Zed Pradu Cloud? When you follow a detail with a generalization, Nasa Cloud, most of the Prat, then the generation it adds to the detail, but it's probably and it adds everything. And adds everything. What are you going to have these minimal adding for? Ella, what you're forced to say, what it really means to say it exactly the way it's written. First, Geneva as the general, and then Shar as the particular Gleva Bashar. Well, that also makes no sense. How can you say how everything was in the generality? Okay. Oh, Okay, how can you say such words like everything's in the general? Or he could say, "What Mahaprad? How can you? How do I abstract the? How do I abstract the detail? Mahaprad before abstracted the detail abstracted. Heavily Geneva cloud. It's going to come out that the opening Geneva was a generalization. The shore prat, shore is the detail. Cloud prat. What's the rule of a generalization followed by a particular? Aim bechlal and prat. There's nothing in it except for the prat. You're not allowed to abstract. You can't. You cannot abstract and widen out the detail. Okay, sure. And so it's going to come out. Then the way the Torah is written, it's literally sure, yes, no, and absolutely nothing else. Period. So that you can't be. Amar always says, don't worry. He says, this is what I told you before. The real truth is what? It's real, even though it didn't state it, it's really learning general, particular, general. Amar Rava. Tana achayim kosamechle. The Tana was relying on the word chayim. Chayim afterward was another generalization. So Geneva is what? It's a general, particular general. Geneva is general. Shore is particular, and what? And chayim is general. Wow. Now you realize that what we read before is not going to make any sense anymore, because now you're not going to learn chayim as extra. Before, when we learned the Brisa before without Rava, we made chayim extra. We made chayim extra. Right? But now that you use chayim as the detail, you can't say, well, I have another detail in there called what? Called chayim. So we'll get to that later. So the Brisa is going to end up, as opposed to the way we read the Brisa a minute ago, that the Brisa ended up happy and content. And content, according to Rava, the Brisa ends up unhappy and uncontent. The Brisa ends up stuck. It ends up stuck. You're going to see in a second. Why is that? Now, this is an aside. This is an aside. When I say it's an aside, we'll continue Rava's explanation in a second. But the first, the Gemara wants to attack the very idea before we let Rava finish. He says, what are you talking about? How can you make this general, particular, general? Hello, dummy. The first klal, which is what? Geneva, and the last klal, which is life, they're completely dissimilar. Why? Because the first one includes everything. Here, get any kind of theft, and the last one, is only. And the last one is only living thing. And so how can you have? The two generalizations are in contradiction with each other. They don't have to have compatible generalizations. Where it says no, I don't have to. Don't worry. At least according to this brisa, we have a shita in the Tana Bishmal, who were masters, obviously, of drashas. They hold that it's fine. You don't. The two generalizations do not have to be compatible. As long as they generalize, we can apply the rule. Okay. Now, okay, good. So now let's get back to the Rish. Let Rava explain the Brisa, because the Brisa makes no sense now. How's he going to explain it? He's going to have to add. I'm going to tell you before, so you won't get nervous. Okay, she's going to add, and even though it doesn't say it, but there's another phrase in here called himatzi. It's going to be found, the double language of finding, and we're going to turn that into a brand new generalization, particular, and generalization. Incredible, an incredible thing. Okay, and that's called two klalim side by side. And what we do is we say, even though there are no particulars between them, we're going to take the particulars that come after them and stick them in the middle. Okay, and that's all in the Brisa, even though you don't see it. Okay, even though you don't see it. That's it. You got to be in the club. I don't know if you know this. I'm going to scare you, but you have to know this. In Eretz Israel, I don't know if you know here. Everything's changed in the army in Israel now. But way back in the old days, the old days of the glory days, et cetera, et cetera. So everybody knew if you wanted to be in an elite unit in the army, the officer would just say to you, so describe Petra to me. Petra's in another country, you can't go to. No, it's anybody who hadn't on his own volition stolen across the border and seen it, you couldn't get in. It was obvious here. If you can't describe Petra, you can't come in. Nobody told you that. If anybody hasn't done it, can't get in. Now, but by the Torah, there's something like that, which is much heavier. And that is, you see, by Simchas Yisrael and all the people. I'm scared because I'm telling you, because I saw it, I read it, my Rebbe said it was frightening. Yeah, of course, as far as he was concerned, if you haven't seen Eliyahu Hanavi, you can't even get into the yeshiva. If you haven't met Eliyahu Hanavi, you're not in the club. And I'm telling you, I'm saying what I'm saying. Hey, if you what? You didn't meet Eliyahu? What are you doing in my yeshiva? What are you doing? You never saw Eliyahu Hanavi? Huh?
I thought memorizing 200 block was.
It's good. I'm saying, you never saw Eliyahu Hanavi? What are you doing here? How'd you get to the yeshiva? It's fighting anyway. So it's scary. Okay. So now over here, I forgot where I am. Where am I? So the thing is, you have to be in the club. You understand? This brisa, if you're not in the club of really learning guys, it's hopeless. You're never going to understand this brisa. You got all the secret, after all the secret information that everybody in the club always knows. Yeah, they always knows. Now he says, here's a go. Now he's going to read it to us and add in this extra point. Okay, let's take a look. He says, V'hachi kamar kashale. He says, timatzi lamale. He says, the real problem is that you didn't, the secret of the brisa, you understand is what's that extra phrase, himatze, timatze, doing in there. Okay, and you're going to see it's all going to work. Now he's going to go back and read the whole thing at once and stick it in. Get ready. Yomar shor gneva chaima kol b'chlal. Let the brisa says, just let's have shor and geneva, okay, and chayim and a kol b'chlal. So you mentioned the two rules, geneva and chayim, and shor, okay, and you'll know everything that what? I'll make the general rule. Everything that's movable and is intrinsically valuable as money, okay, it'll be included. The blender says nope, it won't work. Either if that's true, I would say I wouldn't generalize that way. I generally say just like the explicit detail ox, something you can sacrifice in the altar. Also everything that can be sacrificed, and therefore excluding things that can't be. Okay, now 1 second. What are you going to gain from that? That you're going to gain what? Sheep. But it says what you would have gained was as opposed, not in addition to ox, also sheep's go on the altar. No, so but it says okay, because you it says I said I already said it. So what is the generalization I'm going to make? Okay, it must be what? The Rabbah is called over, so it must be what? That's what you came to. What extent? Everything. You said sheep for no reason, so it must be to tell you everything's in. Yomar Geneva, but wait 1 second. But the Tana said 1 second. Very nice, but you still have too many words. Yomar Geneva, okay, the way you explained it, so have the two generalizations, have ox and seh, and I'll know everything. I'll call the flower, everything included. The Brisa says, no, that won't work. Hayisi Omar, I would say, so those just like ox and sheep are both things that can be firstborn. I've called everything else can be sanctified as firstborn. So what would you gain from that generalization? Chamor, you would gain what? You gain a donkey. Okay, when it says donkey, already says it, so I don't get anything by the generalization. So what am I going to gain by using the klal to generalize the detail? The Rabbis called over must be what? Everything, including baseball bats. The Gemara said, no. Not that way. He says, Yom Geneva b'shor b'seh b'chamor b'chaim. What do you mean? If I have Geneva, the general, shor, the particular, seh, the particular, chamor, the particular, b'chaim, and life, what? The rule? Hakol b'chlal. Everything's in there. Why do I need this? The sneaky part. Why do I need himatzi timatze? That's the part that's what he stuck in before. I got one more thing. You solved everything, but he's still stuck with a sore thumb. What himatzi timatze in the process? Says he says if I wouldn't write himatzi timatze, I would say ma problem for I'd say listen, since the detail are all living things, af kol balei also all living things. What would you gain? Shabbalei other living things. Get out of here. It's not true. So I think that you need a matzik timatze. The answer is it won't work. You don't need a matzik timatze. What are you going to gain? When it says other things, I living there, but it says living things. So I can't gain that. So therefore what? To learn other living things, Chaim alone was enough, and I would have done it. And therefore what? I didn't need to generalize the details to know living things. But he said living things. So how am I going to learn the general? The Rabbis called over. So then the generalization itself demands that what? You talk about everything, even baseball bats, and therefore what? I don't need imatzik timatze. You tried, they tried, but I don't need it. I don't need it because the generalization of the detail will tell me life. Okay, probably. I don't need the generalization to tell me living things that said living things. So the generalization has to be baseball bats in that objects. And therefore what? I don't need timatze. Even though the Brisa, you don't see those words in the Brisa. That's where the Brisa ends up. I'm stuck. So the Gemara, we're stuck. Exactly. No, we did. So far we did. So far we did. So so far we did. But we did that in Adam, but the price is stuck. So the Gemara says, "Wait a second, you can't leave me hanging." The Gemara says, "Wait a second, you can't just stop the price there, Rabba. Yeah, what do you mean? You leaving me hanging over a cliff? What are you doing? He says, shopper kasha. So the Gemara ends up with a great kasha. No teretz. The answer is what? The Gemara doesn't bother. It's so obvious. Everybody knows the answer. But he says, but now for us catcher uppers, mishum disney pirchai. So he explains, don't worry. They're not a kasha.
Because you cannot.
They're not a kasha. Why is that? Why I really do need to have himatzei timatzei. The Rav was called up for Mechas Kamaisa. Where'd you get the idea that everything's included? Mikbasa. Where's the final includer? No, it's here. No, it's when you have the general and a particular. The general says what? A general would first say, well, the only thing in the rule is the particular. The second general says, no, widen out, make an abstraction, make a theory, and then add things that aren't explicit. So where's the widening out? It comes to the last generalization, Mikla Basra. It comes to the last generation, which is what when it says living things. Okay, that's what does it. Okay, because if the last thing hadn't been written, I would have only the details and nothing else. Okay, so don't because of that. Well, what do I mean? So then, how can you tell me what? From the details, I would have learned life, etc. He says, the last one said living things, okay? Okay, how can you contradict, okay? Like two called number, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? The details coming to teach you what to include everything? It said life, in, okay, here, in other words, let me say, I read it, if I didn't read it nicely, here's the point. Here, what are you doing? You want to generalize, you told me, the way we ended up the Brisa, you're going to generalize it. I don't need anything, okay? Must be what because life, living things I know. So must be what? The generalizations tell me what? Even inanimate objects. How can you contradict the last rule? The only thing that gave you a right to extend the detail was the last rule. The last rule said living things. You can't throw your Rebbe out. You can't. That's your source. Your whole source, the Chaim, the last rule was what gave you permission to extend the details. You can't extend the details in a way that contradicts the last rule.
You mean the cloud?
The cloud, yeah, the last rule, which is the cloud. What gave you the right to extend the word Chaim? You can't extend it in a way that contradicts the word Chaim. It said Chaim, living things, not other thing. You can't do it. Okay? And therefore, everybody knew the Brisa didn't have to bother to tell you the answer. It needed to say, okay, that's Timatze. That's why I had to say what? And to tell me what. So therefore, I did need to find out Timatze. Good. Okay, we're not in bad shape. Okay, so now, not bad. So now we stop. Let's just remember where we are. So understand the argument. We asked, according to the opinion that Pasuk Vav and Zayin, etc., in the chapter that we have in front of us, we were all about a watchman. We said we were stuck. How does he explain that a regular thief has to pay for anything else except for animals? We answered. We had a whole big drasha in the final analysis. The klal, and he finds out what that everything's included, even baseball bats.
But you've only used the word himatze. You still haven't.
No, you don't see too much. We'll get there. He must see too much. For the moment. Okay, but here we solved it. Okay, thank God. Okay, so far so good. Now, you know what? They said, 1 second. I have a little bit of a problem because what we didn't explain, and we didn't explain timatze. I said to you, remember, I said it the first one. I said after. It's not merely the extraness of himatze timatze. But it's also we're learning himatze timatze as its own particular general. I'm sorry if I didn't repeat. I said it originally, but then I didn't repeat myself because too many details for to get out of the mouth at one time. But the point is, like himatze timatze was really learned is its own particular general to generate everything. Now, what is going on here? See, so the Gemara says, snake close to smicha adadi. What do you mean? Himatze and timatze, there's no details between the two words, himatze, timatze. There's nothing that's two generals, one next to the other. Who says, how can you make that general particular general? There's no particulars between them. There's nothing there. There's no prop between them. Ravini says, don't worry. Like they said in there to Israel, stay close. If you find two generalizations, one next to the other with no detail between them, take the detail that comes afterwards, okay, and you can learn them as a general and a particular together. Okay, ready. So now we're going to see how it was with timatze that we were able to generalize what the other things, even inanimate objects, etc. Let's see how we did it. He says what? Shadei shor. Take the word shor, which comes afterwards. Okay. Bein himatze l'timatze. Stick the word ox between these two rules, himatze and timatze. Okay, and you're going to get what now? What are you going to gain? What are you talking about? You want to say what it tells me living things? Michaim nafka. I already knew that from the word life. Ella what? But leituya davar shein balichaim. You want to include things that aren't life. Oh, Drosh, you're going to say, my prop mafurish government talked to go for a moment. You're going to say what? Just like the detail, ox is something that's movable and is intrinsically valuable. Af kol davar we talked to go for a moment. Also, everything that's movable and intrinsically money, as opposed to other things like we said, like stars. But two, he says, and then again, okay, and then I'm going to do what? But two, do it again. Now stick the word donkey between the two rules. Like to you, what's it going to teach me? Either to you, tell me things that are not that are inanimate, etc. Mishor enough, I already learned that from where? I already got it from the ox. Okay, Ella, oh, don't worry, you're coming to teach me what things that it has to be what? It has to be something that has a identifiable mark. Okay, it has to be something that you can identify with a distinctive mark. Where it says what? Ihachi said, Lumley, 1 second, then you used everything up. You did it. Here, you told me now. Ox is going to tell me what? Everything movable and has value. And the actual word said will tell me what? It has to have a simon. Pardon me, chamor, donkey tells me what it has to have a simon. Ihachi said Lumley. So then why do I need the sheep? So I'm stuck. The whole drasha just fell apart. Ella, we have to drop it. Okay, drop it and try again. Get ready. We're still going to use himatzi timatze, but we're going to use it in a different rule. And what's that? Now, be careful. In general, throughout the Talmud, we have an argument, in general, of one school, which is the klal u'prad class school, and one school is the riboy miyat riboy school. This is not what's going to happen there. That's not what's going to happen there. In general, that's a party that breaks down, partisan lines. But I'm going to show you that even the guys who learn particular general, sometimes we'll learn we'll sometimes institute a riboy and riboy. And that's what's going to happen here. Let's take a look. Okay, why is that? Even though why? Okay, Ella ribo amid ribo. This particular timatze is going to be an amplifier, a minimizer. No, it's a maximizer, minimizer, maximizer. Why? Even though what? Why could the Torah Rabbi Shmuel? Because he learned, but we learned when it comes to the simanim of fish, she has to have fins and scales. But the pasuk says twice time water, and then it says the seas and the rivers. No. So what are we going to do over here? So maybe fishes that don't come from the sea or the river, it will be kosher. If you grow all kinds of unkosher fishes in a barrel, in a fish pond, in your mikveh, etc., maybe you can eat them without. Maybe you can eat unkosher fish. Grow unkosher fish in all kinds of other places, and you won't need. But the necessity for fins and scales will only by things that are in the sea or the rivers. But all kinds of other water containments will be. You can eat whoa! New restaurant of Boca Raton. The kosher, unkosher fish in the barrel kosher restaurant. You understand? We'll have another thing. So restaurant, everything was going to go. Okay. So he learns what? It says water twice, and the truth is that even though there are words between the two words water in the pasuk, there's no details between them. Okay. He says, even though I know how to learn klal u'prat, but when I see the two rules together, I don't say klal u'prat. What do I say? Ella riba me riba. Even a guy would say what? Particular general, here's going to say what? Riboy, mute, and riboy. And what do I do there? What I do is I say what? You know what? Everything's included. And the detail doesn't generalize. You don't abstract the detail. Every detail is very particular. This is out, that's out, this is out. Exactly what I tell you is out, and nothing else is out. So you're right. We'll have a very limited, exception to what you said. But in general, not everything is not the seas or the rivers. No, a very limited exception. Okay. Now what is that? Let's do it, Ella. Okay. But what Ella? Yeah. Ella riba mina riba. Okay, riba hakol. First, the first one comes in. It includes everything. Now, how are we going to do that? Okay, and it ends up including everything except for the very specific details that were knocked out. My riba. Okay, by our case, what was included? Everything was included. Everything's included. So kalani prati. What do you mean? If everything's included because himatzi timatzi is a riboy and a miyut and a riboy, kalani prati. So what's all the details there for? Shor, chamor, sech, chayim. What are those details doing there? Now Chaim's back in as a detail, by the way. You notice life's back in as a detail because Himatzi Timatzi is the rule. So Chaim's back to what? It became a prod again. He became a prod again. So what Lamali? Why do I need all those details? Don't worry. Chad Lemuti Karka. One is to exclude land. Chad Lemuti Avadim. One to include slaves. Like we said yesterday, because once once you try to uninclude, you got to prove every single point. We just remind everything. One for land, one for slaves. Chad Lemuti Shtaros. One to exclude Shtaros papers. Okay, and now 1 second. So now that I did it, I did the job. Now I have only done 1 second. Now you told me what you just did the whole job with Himatzi Timatzi. So then what? Who needed the whole? What do I need? The whole words, the two generalities of Gnei Chaim. I threw them in the garbage. What are they doing there now? Who needs Gnei and Chaim? The answer is Rav. They're teaching me a special principle of Rav. The Amar where Rav said. He says, Achai Karen, he says, you have to give life to the principle, Cain Shagan of the way it was stolen. And therefore, what if a guy stole a thing, he stole an animal and it got skinny, or he stole an animal and the price, or he stole something and the price went down, he always has to pay back the theft at the price that he stole it.
And that's
okay, yeah. So now we can really take a breath. At this point now, we've said, according to the Mandama, that both Sukkim above are talking about a shomer. A shomer. And the only source I have for a Ganav is Pasuk Gimel at the beginning. How did I learn everything? The final answer was that I learned it from Riboy from Himatze Timatze. And Ganav and Chai were to tell me a special rule that you have to pay back this theft at the time. Okay, wonderful. Now, we're just getting started. 1 second. 1 second. He says, but now, okay, that was all very good according to the one who said what the Vadim Zion. We're both watchmen. But 1 second, what about the first brisa? Okay, that what? He said that the first pasuk was what? Was the second pasuk was a watchman. The second pasuk was Ganav. Okay, and the second pasuk was what? Was a Torah Tanis Ganav, and therefore what? I have a source for Kefel for a Ganav later, and okay, and I know everything. The Ganav Atzma Napoli Mimatze Ganav. I know that that's later. That's Himatze Ganav. That's the later one in Pasuk Vav. I know the Ganav himself in Pasuk Vav. Okay, hi Mimatze Timatze my darses. What is that man going to do with this whole incredible drush we just did? But Mimatze Timatze. What's he going to do with that whole Reboy Mina, etc.? Just don't worry. He needs it for another reason. The Rabbi Bar says, "My time at Rav Damar Modebet Nas Boydin Potter." How did Rav know to say? We know that a guy who admits to a fine doesn't have to pay it. Okay, why? Because it says whatever judges find him guilty for, he has to pay. What the judges find him guilty for, and not what he has to pay the double, not what he found himself guilty for. So I know, but I said, but how do I know that if he found himself, if he not only if he was the only source of knowledge, okay, that he did wrong and he admitted, does he not pay? What if there's another source? What if he came and admitted, but then 10 minutes later, witnesses come in and do it? So had they reversed, he couldn't have admitted as they come. So how can an admission be an admission when in the end there is somebody to reveal the information without him? Is it only when we need him, or no? Is it as long as he came in at the moment when we needed him, even though we didn't need him later? Is he still called a guy who admitted? The answer is deceive. He says, here's how I know. If it's found, then he's found. What? If we find this theft, okay, with witnesses, then he goes in front of the judges. Okay. Problem, which excludes a guy, any guy who indicted himself, even though later we found witnesses, he still doesn't pay double. Woo! Beautiful. So they were telling me what? No. Only if witnesses brought him does he go to the judges. If he brought himself in, even if witnesses came later. So, right. But here's the point. So we added that what? Even though from the pasuk Yashir that the judges are going to find him guilty, does he pay? But not when he finds himself guilty. I know, but how do I know? Maybe that's only if there's no other information. He has to find himself guilty, and there's nobody else to do it. What if he found himself guilty and then witnesses show up? Maybe the rule doesn't apply. So we had Himatzi. Tell me no. Even when witnesses show up later, he's still exempt. Either witnesses brought him to the judges, or nobody brought him to the judges. That's all. I'm sorry. You can't. He goes in front of the judge. If they're not available at the beginning, then. according to now you started. According to that, yeah.
It shuts off and goes
Just teasing. Okay, so now, according to the watchman, but then it's got him, and he needed him to teach him the whole damn stuff out of himself. That's to pay under all circumstances. Alone. So how does he know that a guy who indicted himself is free from kefil even if witnesses came later? Okay, no, it says he knows that rule only from Me'asher Elohim. The way he knows that a guy who admits to a Knas is potter because when the judges indict him, not somebody else, well, and not somebody else. He says 1 second, and really what? And therefore he learns it from there. Now, he didn't go, but he didn't go so far as the second principle. Okay, right. The one who said one pasuk was a ganav and one was the Tarantanis ganav. The Aisile mimatzik timatze Mashiach Atzmo, and he uses what he matzik timatze to show what that that he doesn't have to pay when he's Mashiach himself. Even witnesses came later. What did he need the other pasuk for? Why didn't actually use Shir for? If he matzik timatze tells him he's out, no matter what. He doesn't have to pay. What do you actually share? No, he needs it. Like I told you before, he needs it to learn the general principle that if a guy's moed b'tavas, okay, where witnesses didn't come afterwards, that he's exempt. That he's exempt. Okay, and he can learn from there. The truth is that he's exempt even even when witnesses came afterwards. And 1 second, he says the one who holds what that both of them are the pasuk of a watchman, okay, and he uses himatzi timatzi for the ganav, okay, and not to exclude somebody who indicted himself, okay. And he does have an extra pasuk. What does he hold? The answer is that's right. He really holds what? He doesn't have enough to psukim. So he only learns what? He learns really what? When are you exempt if you indict yourself and there's no witnesses? But if witnesses come afterwards, then even though you indicted yourself, you still have to what? You still have to pay. You still have to pay the double. Yeah. Yeah. Let's. Maybe let's just.
It's still very early.
It's early? Okay, let's continue. According to the one who said what? According to the pasuk who said, if I missed up, I might have missed the part there a minute ago. If I did, you'll fix it. Generally, I said correct. I might have missed one part. According to the opinion that said what? The pasuk Vav was the Ganav and pasuk Zion, etc., was the Tarantanis Ganav. The Nafkale Ganav Behasav, and he learns what? The whole rule of Ganav we have to learn from pasuk Gimel, that he pays on inanimate objects, etc. Very good. What he needs timatze, like we learned to learn Modibiknas, and witnesses came later as Potter. But what do I need all these details for? Shar, Chamar said, Lamali, what I need them all for? Like learn the Hadeshah, the time of Yishmael, we learn anytime a parsha was taught and taught again, okay, an extra time, it's only taught for one single thing. Even though we repeated the whole thing, it's just to tell me one single thing. You write me a whole parsha over again, even though there's only one of the details is novel, and even though the rest I don't need it for. And also over here, right, I wrote the whole part of Ganav over again just to teach me the mode of a knas. And if the guy admits to the fine, and witnesses came afterwards, that he is still exempt, even though that there was another source to indict him. As long as he beat them to the punch, Again, here we should stop, and then we'll continue tomorrow. That's a big deal. Ooh, they're big pages.
These things are shameless.
Yeah, I take them home. Yeah, you can get back to me. I take him home.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I do have my Hebrew word. The word Hebrew word process does make valid, but it's just a big. It's just a nuisance. It's just a big nuisance.
You have to press it.
Yeah. It's a big nuisance. I hate it. It's a big nuisance. Nobody likes it.
But if you have it, the only other way for such an immense gift.